Welcome everybody to the round 9 tips and predictions. I think I might call it tips and analysis video from now on instead of predictions, because we don't really make too many predictions, but we analyse a lot more. If you do like what you see throughout the video, make sure to give us a like and subscribe. We're trying to boost those numbers and trying to reach YouTube's first little section so people can be members and stuff like that. And so if you can do that, that'll be great. This week, we'll start off with my ladder predictor for the end of the season and changing it a little bit around since last week. We've got Bulldogs now jumping up to third, tied with Brisbane now. So it just matters on percentage from them. Collingwood obviously losing some points since they lost to Geelong. But Hawthorn and GWS tied. It'll be a percentage thing for them. I think Hawthorn will have a better percentage come the end of the season. Every game's just 10 by 20 points. But as the season goes on, I reckon Gold Coast could even drop down further. So we might be having a Hawthorn home final there at least, I think. But yeah, no one else creeping. It's a bit of a gap, I think, the top 8 from the rest of the competition.
Yeah, it's started to do that, hasn't it?
Yeah, I saw a stat saying that after round 8, or after every team has played 8 games, there's 6 teams on average that are in the 8 that'll be in the 8 at the end of the year. So there's 2 teams that usually pop out. So I don't really know, because the 8 that I've got there is also the 8, just in a different order, the top 8. So be curious to see if any of the teams pop out from there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think it's going to change too much. Actually, I think the top 8's nearly set. The order isn't, but the teams are.
Yeah, so. I think so. But yeah, last week you had a decent week, 7 out of 9. I had a pretty terrible one. I got 5 out of 9. Got to stop with my silly tips there, Uncle. We both got Fremantle wrong. I got Adelaide wrong. You were smart and actually went Adelaide at home, and the Adelaide supporter went, nah, fuck it, Carlton's got to get up. We both got Collingwood wrong, and I got Sydney wrong. So I had GWS, you had Sydney. Good decisions there. So that brings your total up to 49 and mine up to 46. So you got a 3-point lead over me, Uncle. You're on pretty well. Yeah, and we've both still got our gauntlets with Melbourne and Bulldogs kicking up. So yeah, I hear you've got a stat for us.
I do. I'll go through some stats that I've been working on throughout the season. So I think now's about the time we'll bring it to light, and we'll track it for the rest of the year. I've been looking at the gaps between games of teams that play. So it's something you might have said a couple of weeks ago about a 5-day break with a team. So I thought, well, what are the stats around 5-day break teams? And it is a 2-5 record for the year so far. The teams that have had a 5-day break have won 2 and lost 5. Okay. And those 2 wins were actually against other teams that also had a 5-day break. So essentially, the 5-day break teams are 0 and 3.
That's interesting, because our first game this round is a team coming off a 5-day break.
It is. So that's why I wanted to mention it early on, so we could talk about that in my tips. Interestingly, the 6-7 day breaks are running at about 50%, and the teams with an 8-9 break, my phone's popping off, so I'll get rid of that. The teams with a 8 or 9 day break are running at about 55-60%. So it seems the optimal time frame for teams to have a break is 8 or 9 days.
So there is a correlation between longer day breaks to performance levels, I guess.
It seems to be. So it's standing up at the moment with the results this year. Teams that have had a 10+ day break, 1 win, 2 losses. So that sort of tips you over the edge. So 10-day break is probably too long. And 8 or 9 breaks seems to be optimal. So I'll keep a look at that during the year. Every time a 5-day break team comes up, I'll probably mention it. But we'll keep an eye on that over the year and see how it goes.
Yep. That's fair. Good stat. Great stats coming in, Uncle. I love it. Love the new addition. I love it. As we kick off the round with Fremantle versus Collingwood at 8:10 on a Thursday. 5 Thursday night. 5-day break for Collingwood. 5 day 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 bre I see here Fremantle are actually favourites. I think both teams will come out firing. I think Fremantle's probably pretty embarrassed after last week's performance against St Kilda. And at home, I think that they will do quite well. But I'm going to go with Collingwood anyway. They just look too good.
Have you seen the outs?
No? Oh, no.
Mychek, Pendlebury, DeGoey, and Maynard.
So as I was saying, Fremantle, they're looking really strong. I think I'll go with Fremantle after that.
Yeah. I mean, they're significant outs, aren't they?
That explains why it's their favourites.
You back that up with a 5-day break with all those outs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably go Fremantle as well.
Yep.
Interestingly, though, the last 5 games they've played in Perth, Collingwood is on a 3-1-1 record, including there was a draw last year, which Collingwood were well up most of the game. Fremantle came back late to get the draw. So Collingwood do have a good record over here in Perth. But, yeah, based on all the outs, the restings, I'll probably go Fremantle just.
Yeah,
not a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I think the same. I think you can take out a lot of people from Collingwood, but there's still a lot of people in there, and their game plan is still probably the same. So they've still got a very, very good chance, I think, nonetheless. I think this whole round is definitely full of like 50-50s or 60-40s, I think. There's so many of them, including this one. St Kilda versus Collingwood Friday night at the MCG. Surprising that it's at the MCG. St Kilda home game as well. Would have thought that would have been at Marvel. But nonetheless, St Kilda versus Carlton, sorry. I think it's quite tough to pick. How about you take this one?
Yeah, the best of Carlton should win, but I don't think we've seen the best of Carlton this year, so it's hard to tip a team that's out of form. The last 10 games at Marvel between these two teams, St Kilda won 8 of them. So St Kilda have they've always got a good Marvel record, but certainly against Carlton, it's 80% is probably even better. So based on that, I'm probably going to stick with the Saints.
I was thinking the opposite, being that it's not at Marvel. I think that Carlton played better games at the MCG. So
is that the MCG, is it?
It's at the MCG, not at Marvel.
Oh, right, okay.
Oh, well. Yeah, I don't know, because St Kilda they didn't look really good. They looked quite poo as well as Fremantle, but just in the second half they looked decent. I'm going to go with Carlton, I think, just because of Vossi should try and bounce back this week with his group. As you said, the best of Carlton are better than the best of St Kilda, so hoping for them Friday night under the lights at the G, they stand up.
Well, I'll probably do your graphics a great disservice here, but I thought it was at Marvel, so I did my tip based on Marvel. So, at the MCG, at the wide open spaces, I think will suit the taller Carlton forward line. So yeah, I'll go with Carlton.
Yeah, so both games, one of us has flipped on our tip already. It's a good start to the week. Melbourne versus Hawthorn to start off the Saturday at the G. I don't know if you like little fun facts, but both teams last 2 weeks have versed Richmond and West Coast. And they're now facing off. And then later in this round, we have Richmond versus West Coast. I just thought that was a fun little 3-round fixturing. Got to go with Hawthorn. I think they've been a lot better in those games against those bottom 2 sides than Melbourne have been. So I think that was pretty easy.
Yeah, Hawks for me. Melbourne have won or drawn the last 8 games they've played, though.
Against Hawthorn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's but I think that there's a difference, though. Hawthorn's different this year compared to previous years, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know when the Hawks and Melbourne played last year, but it might have been early when the Hawks lost the first 5. But yeah, Melbourne do have a good record. But yeah, I'll still stick with the Hawks.
Next one, middle game, Essendon versus Sydney at Marvel this time, Uncle. I'm a bit undecided. I think Sydney were decent. I don't think they were fantastic, but I think they were decent last week. Essendon struggled a bit against North Melbourne. but under the lid, Marvel, it kind of sways more towards Essendon. But I think Sydney's power is just going to be too good. Their star power is much better than Essendon's.
I think Essendon won 4 of the last 5, haven't they? Not sure.
Maybe they've definitely. I mean, they've versed some pretty shit
Average teams, yeah.
So probably.
Interestingly, they don't play at Marvel very often, these two teams, but the last 12 years, only 5 games they've played there. 4 of them have been won by Sydney. So Sydney seem to play okay at Marvel. I've probably got to trust that they're back to their best, as we saw last week. They were pretty comprehensive against GWS. So I'll probably go Sydney. You're right. It's going to be one of those weeks where we could get 2 right or we could get 8 right.
Yeah. Our gauntlet's not very, very good.
Yeah.
So then we got 2 great games on Saturday night, though. Gold Coast versus Bulldogs over at Darwin. Gold Coast, I think, finally versed a team that were actually decent and good away from home. So that kind of showed probably where they are actually at, even though they only lost by 3 goals. I'm pretty sure they kicked 3 goals quite late when Brisbane weren't trying anymore. They were literally just kicking the ball in their defensive 50 and gave up a few goals. So Bulldogs are on fire at the moment. Gold Coast undefeated Darwin, but I'm actually going to go Bulldogs to break that streak. I think they're just clicking, and I don't think Gold Coast will be able to stop them.
Yeah, all-time record is Gold Coast 4 wins, Bulldogs 13. So they have a pretty good head-to-head record against the Gold Coast. And yeah, I'm gonna go the Gold Coast in Darwin. I think their record there is speaks for itself.
It's phenomenal,
undefeated. So I'll go. I know the Bulldogs have been really, really good. I'm just gonna go Gold Coast up at Darwin.
I think most people will. I think I was speaking before about no more silly tipping now. I've got to try and catch up with you, but it's just I'm really high on the Dogs this year. So
fair enough.
We also got the showdown, Port Adelaide versus Adelaide. I will be glued to it, and I'm just going to tip my crom, and let's just hope there's another shellacking. But as we all know, ladder placement and form does not mean anything for a showdown game.
No.
So we'll see what happens there, especially a Port one. Port home.
Yeah, and interestingly, the last 10 games they've played, it's 5-all. So, and so ladder really doesn't mean anything. And Adelaide have won 3 of the last 4. So their recent record against Port is very good. I will go Adelaide. I really don't rate Port that much this year. So they fired up against the Hawks and they got a bit angry. That's the only way they can play, angry. If they don't get angry, then they'll get belted. And, well, they might get angry in a showdown, but I'll go with Adelaide.
Yeah, interesting that 3 of the last 4, I would say that Adelaide's been the worst team throughout the year too. So that just definitely shows you about that. Doesn't mean shit when it comes to a showdown. Then we have Sunday games, Richmond versus West Coast at the MCG. I think Richmond have done decently over the last couple weeks against Melbourne and Hawthorn. Decently for them, I should say. West Coast, I think, have done worse against those 2 teams. Being at the MCG, I'm going to go with Richmond. Not all that confidence, but at the same time, I don't see me being able to complete the gauntlet without going Richmond, so I'm going to use them this round and pray and hope.
Yeah, I've got no stats of note in these 2 teams. They're pretty horrible at the moment. West Coast easily team 18 and probably Richmond team 17 going around at the moment. So unfortunately, I'm going to pick Richmond as well. They're also going to be my gauntlet, and it's unfortunate in that I had a sports bet at the start of the year that I didn't think Richmond would win more than 2 games. So if they win this game, which I think they will, then my sports bet is done.
It's all over. Who do we want to win, the sports bet or the gauntlet? I guess. Sports bet. Gamble responsibly. Geelong versus GWS next at GMHBA. I'm pretty sure that GWS have a 4-game win streak against Geelong over at GMHBA or something like that.
Right.
But I definitely think that Geelong are a way better side than what GWS are this year. Cats finished hugely in the fourth quarters, as we saw the past few weeks. So I think that they will just be too strong for what seems like a limping Giants team. They're not performing as to what I think people thought they would at the start of the year.
Yeah.
And it's starting to show against teams that are in that top 8.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. GWS have won 5 of their last 7 games they've played, but I think that Dangerfield quarter, that last quarter that he had, was probably, I reckon, to be the best quarter of football he's ever played.
It's
He was
amazing.
amazing against Collingwood. So
He's done it against not just them too. He did it against Adelaide as well. He stood up and kicked a
yeah,
couple goals in that last quarter. He's phenomenal, and I can't believe that
oh,
he's still performing as well as he is at his age.
amazing. Yeah, amazing. So I'm going to go with Geelong to win that one as well.
Yep. And then to round us off, North Melbourne versus Brisbane, pretty easy over at Hobart. I wonder if Alistair Clarkson can make North Melbourne have the kind of fortress that Hawthorn had down there whilst he was there. I don't think they'll start at this game, that's for sure, against Brisbane. Top of the ladder. They controlled that Gold Coast game, I think, all the way through.
Yeah.
They were just really good. So, I mean, Brisbane are just going to win that one, I think, pretty easily.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Brisbane have won their last 7 games against North, so they'll make it 8 this week. Brisbane to win.
Yeah, that's fair assessment. But that's it for us this week. Again, make sure to give us a like and subscribe if you like, and we will see you next week. If you want to join us live for reactions, we'll be live Thursday and Friday. Hopefully, this week's games are a lot better than last week's. We nearly fell asleep during the Friday one. So apologies to everyone that watched those 2 streams. And we'll try and live it up a little bit more, but we'll see you guys then. Bye.
See you later.